Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Oh, we have sat here so many times. Not this particular address, but in the energy of what we'd call the Kryon homeroom. Family is here. Those who listened to my partner when he first started are here. Those who wondered what this was all about are here. And so the entourage of humanity that sits in the chairs is known to me. Very well known to me. If you're new, if this is the first time, you can sit and you can wonder, what is this? What's happening? I know you too. I can't help but know you. Your soul is enormous, as an old soul, and all of you sitting here are. That's not always the case, dear ones. An old soul is one who is defined as having multiple lifetimes on this planet. So many. Some of you are even original. Thousands of lives. And you ask, well, why? What is the purpose? Why live over and over and struggle? And the answer is for this time, right now, for this time. I've sat in the place like this and described so many times how this was not the plan a few years ago of humanity. There is no plan or contract when humanity has free choice. You have to understand, the Spirit gives your soul ultimate free choice. And apart from what you might have been told, God does not give you free choice and then judge you on your choice. You are free to take the light or the dark, any direction. And it shapes something we're going to talk about later tonight when we talk about next year. What the numbers mean, what might happen, what holds the field together. But right now, that's not what we're discussing. We're discussing you. In these last weeks, something has begun to happen. It's something that is obtuse. Most people don't know. It's not needed that they do. I'll call it a mechanic of cosmic truth. That the grids of this planet are starting to change. We mentioned this last week and also in the weeks before that. Some of you have said, well, I know there is new energy on the planet and I see things working differently and I see also some issues that never were here before, and I know there's change. But we keep talking about a light quotient. We keep talking about the fact that there's more light than dark. Way back, 1987, in the harmonic convergence, something flipped. There was a switch almost that was conscious, driven of this planet that said we're staying. Shortly after that, the Soviet Union fell out. Shortly after that, you went through the difficult time that was going to be the Armageddon, the year 2000, and then the year 2012. All of these markers you were not expected to go through. All you have to do is read your scripture to know that you are way past that point where there was going to be an Armageddon, and you chose not to have one. Basically, I arrived 30 years ago because of you, because of this decision. 2 years after the harmonic convergence, I was here. The very year that the Berlin Wall fell down, things started changing. And now here you sit in 2019, way past 2012. But here's the point. Why is there more light? There would be those who would say, I know consciousness is starting to move, but is there something causing it? Or are we simply lifting ourselves up from a darker place? It's all that and more. When the nodes and the nulls were described and given to you, not all knew those things. Not all cared about those things. It seemed esoteric to the max. What difference does it make? It's nice to know about those from the stars who would put things in certain places, time capsules that would open when it was time. And now it's time. So there's something esoteric going on in this planet, with this planet, on this planet, that has to do with the very dirt of the earth and the consciousness of humanity. And what's happening is you've got help. When the final node and null was matched and 24 were together, he started working on the grids of this planet in a way that would churn up old dark energy and throw it into the light. That's a metaphor, dear ones, but you get it. In other words, the dark and the light, the negative, the positive, is being worked on for you by other elements on the planet. Elements that were always here but waiting. That's what's making a difference. And there would be those who would hear this and say, well, that's all very nice, Kryon. What has it got to do with me? Old soul, everything. Haven't you felt something lately? Oh, an awareness, something invisible perhaps that is around you. It might have kept you awake a lot. Some of you are finding your sleep patterns are changing. Some of you are starting asking esoteric questions about your life. Young people who are here, they would say, well, it's too soon to ask those questions. You got to be over 50. And that's not the truth, because that's an old paradigm that says, here's what you do when you retire. You start thinking spiritually. And that's not so. Not anymore. That's an old human attribute of those who like to put humans in boxes and say, here's what they think about at certain ages and here's what they do. And old souls of young people are starting to wake up and ask questions. Who am I? Why do I feel like I've been here before? Why do I feel like I have some kind of wisdom and yet nobody is listening to me? No, I just pegged somebody in the audience, didn't I? I'll tell you, we're listening to you. Because the old souls have something to say. How many of you recognize that your grandchildren have something to say? That you can look in their eyes and say, you're not from here, really, are you? You're from a lineage of old souls, many, many lives. Some of you have grandchildren that have mastery. And you know it, just the way they look at you, what they say. This is the difference, because it affects even the energy of birth. They land on a planet which has more light than you did. And the consciousness of the young, they start to change immediately. And the wisdom factor starts to show much earlier than anything you had. I'll tell you, ask a psychiatrist, a psychologist. You had to be almost 26 before you were settled. And now, How about 15? That place where there usually is rebellion, that place where young people become difficult with the adults, that's starting to change. Not for everyone, but for the old souls, because the 15-year-old is starting to ask the questions. Am I here by accident? What is it I feel? Why are things the way they are? Why is there so much dysfunction here? Why aren't things better? And instead of going to their room and sulking about it, they're standing up and going to others who are the same age and saying, what can we do? And quite often the answer at that age is not go on a rebellious march in the street. It's get together and talk about it and think about it for what you can do when you're a little older, or how you'll treat your children instead of the way you're being treated. All of these things, brand new. You didn't expect this. Some invisible things are taking place that you don't know about. You're not ready for. Not ready. No, really. When I say not ready, I mean that it'll shock you and surprise you. What is invisible right now around you that you felt, but you can't pinpoint it? Is there somebody knocking on that windshield of your soul? The bubble of your soul, that Merkaba, that seems to encircle you in such a protective shell. That protection, by the way, is starting to expand. That protects you from knowing about multidimensional things. Are you ready to slip into another kind of dimensionality? Not that anyone would notice, but you will know. That's what it is. Human beings starting to become far more multidimensional than ever. And what does that look like and what does that feel like? To some of you, uncomfortable. And some of you, expected. But the actual attribute is that you feel that there's something more. And you're on the cusp of it. It doesn't matter how young or old you are. You're on the cusp of it. And you feel it. You might say there's a benevolence. A thick benevolence, a smiling benevolence that really wants in. He really wants in. It's so different than what you would expect. You might awaken and say, well, who is it? Who are you? What do you want? And you miss the point. What if it's your oversoul? What if it's you? What if it's your benevolence? Are you ready to meet the rest of you? Are you tired of being in such a 3D mode for so long that all of your habits you can list on one hand and they start with fear and worry and anxiety? What if you could reach that other hand through that dimensional barrier and bring it back, and you'd find love, compassion, lack of fear, purpose, and peace? That's the rest of you. That's the design, you see. And that's what starts to happen when the grids of this planet starts to push benevolence on you, is you start to meet the rest of you. It's beautiful, isn't it, to think that there's no one out there that's going to take you by the hand and walk you through safe places, that it's you, that your soul was always designed as a piece of God. And that hand that's been outstretched that we've asked you to take so many times is not a mysterious angel. It's the rest of you. A wise you, a compassionate you. This is a new consciousness. It's being measured on this planet, and old souls are receiving it first. And that's who sits here today. That's who often listens to these messages. Can't you feel it? There is something pressing, inviting, that says there are changes happening. Why don't you come along? Free choice is just that. It's not a coercement. It's not a do it or else. It's not a reward system, dear ones. It's free choice. And it happens because you're ready. It happens because you're ready. I'll be back. I'll be back. And so it is.